Well, welcome to Becoming More, another podcast where you get to hear about other people and how they have improved their life. Now, today I am with my good friend, Linda McKissack. And of course, Linda and Jimmy, so many people know you, Linda, because of the things that you've been able to accomplish in your life. And now you're helping others. You've actually gone from success to significance. And for those of you who don't know Linda, she is an entrepreneur, an investor, an author, a speaker, a coach. The list goes on and on and on. She owns multiple businesses with her husband. And of course, they're investors. If you have spent any time with her, then you can tell that she has spent over a decade helping high achievers build businesses, their wealth, and their lives to where having freedom. And it goes back a little bit, Linda. I remember Dr. Gross, and we were in Dr. Gross groups, and he made a comment about you have to have more than one bucket of income. And you
Yeah,
took that literally. And
yeah.
so we're going to go through a little bit of your life without reading all about it, just bringing it up throughout this podcast. So let's start with you heard about buckets of income.
Yeah.
What happened in your mind at that point, and how many did you decide to have?
Well, I think it landed so well, Diana, because we had actually lost everything before because we only had one stream. So I think, that probably helped what he said land with us. And what he said was because we were all high performers, like we were in the top 1/4 of 1% of real estate sales. And, because you were in that group also. But he said that we would need up to 7 streams of income. And I'd never heard that before, to be honest with you. I was in the belief, like most people are, that all you needed to do was create cash flow, and that solved all your problems forever. And and because we had actually had that happen to prove itself wrong before, I think it landed more with me that, oh, okay, 7. Let me see. I have 1, and it stops when I do. And I think at the time we were probably already investing a little bit in real estate because of the crash that we'd gone through,
Yeah.
but I still knew I didn't have 7. And so that landed with me. And I'm just one of those people that if I believe the coach, I'm going to do what they say. I'm not paying them to hear what they say and not do it. So we just set out to say, okay, what would be a next likely stream of income that we could get?
Well, and I think it's because of the way that we've both been through hard times. And I want to take you back a little bit into those hard times so people can understand why that landed with you so well. Because here, you and Jimmy, I mean, your family's owing over $600,000. Now, I don't know if the listeners can even relate to this because they think they may be in debt because they owe 30 or 60,000 on a credit card. Just think about that, 10 times 600,000, and you have rebuilt that from being in debt. I want to go back to that time and think about what changed first, the circumstances, the strategy, your mindset, the way you were thinking?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that happened is it forced something that I now believe is a strategy that we've since used to build the life that we have now. And that is, I always say there's 2 ways that you get to this, a push or a pull. And the push was somebody pushes you off the cliff. And that's what happened. They pushed us off the cliff. So all of a sudden we had to have a goal way bigger than we could accomplish. We had to figure out how to get out of that $600,000 in debt. And so all of a sudden, and I believe this is very powerful because what we should do is use that kind of tool of setting big goals that really make us think differently and have to get ideas and pathways that we've never had before by setting those kind of goals for ourselves. But at that time, I'd never set a big goal and never understood the power of it. But that push off the cliff made us set such big goals that seemed impossible because when we started to read books, you and I both are so learning based, Diane. We probably have millions of books,
Yes.
that we've read over the years and we still have them. But it made us start searching for answers and pathways that we didn't have to search for before, because quite honestly, we felt like we were pretty successful. Jimmy's nightclubs were making good cash flow and good money until they weren't, until all of a sudden the money dried up and it just wasn't there. And so, I always say the worst thing happens to you can be the best thing that ever happened to you if you learn the lessons that you need. And the lesson that we got was, when you're forced to think bigger and find different pathways to solve bigger problems, you actually can. I believe, I always say, I go to sleep at night and sometimes come up with the answer. I have a little sign in my bedroom that says, go to sleep and give it to God. And I truly believe that's what happens. And in the morning, because you've been wrestling with this big challenge that you have, that either you've given yourself because you understand that it works that way, or life gave it to you, you just start finding new pathways. And we had read some books about wealthy people, and we were like, who in the heck are the people that never have this happen to them again? And come to find out, it's people who had built assets and wealth and stuff like that. And so I immediately set a goal that if we needed to buy real estate, we were going to do it, even though we were in debt. And that was an impossible goal.
Well, the other part that you did, and you did it so well, because right now people look at you. I mean, you're one of the most respected leaders in real estate. You're known for your wealth building. You're known for being a leader that helps other people and builds big companies. So they can't even fathom that you were $600,000 in debt. Yet what I want our listeners to hear is you're in debt, yet you still found money to go to courses.
Yes.
In real estate, and you continued to learn. That is the one thing that I know about you, is you are a learner like nobody else. I mean, we went to seminars all the time. You were my seminar buddy, for heaven's sakes. Yet here you were, $600,000 in debt. What made you think about even going to another class, to being around these types of people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really think that it should be your first question you ask is who has already solved this kind of problem? Who can help us figure, what's a shortcut? And a shortcut is a person who's already accomplished what you want to accomplish. And sometimes you got to pay money to be in the room with them. And sometimes you have to pay for their coaching. A funny story is, when we went to our first seminar that we really couldn't afford to be at, but we found the money anyway, the person on stage that was doing $600,000 in commission that year was your husband, Tony DeCello. And we tackled him on break. We went to dinner with him. We rollerbladed when neither one of us ever had a pair of rollerblades on. We went to the movies with him. We would have slept in his room on sleeping bags if he would have let us, because we knew that he had the information that we needed. And if he would just give it to us, we could go home and do what he said and get out of that hole. So
Well,
I think
you got out of the hole, Linda. For heaven's sakes, you've authored multiple books. You've authored educational courses. You teach entrepreneurs. You teach real estate professionals. And you're most notably known for, outside of real estate, for the best-selling book 10X is Easier Than 2X, where you were featured in one of those stories. And so I want people to really listen to what you have to say. You were in debt. You still found the money to go get education. You found the right person. You followed them to get up and get going. Now, you've got this deep passion for coaching and helping others. So what do you teach in your leverage? I mean, I know you're getting ready for a new course that you're going to be teaching, 10X, for heaven's sakes. If you're listening to this, you need to jump on that course. Tell us very briefly about it, and then I want to get back into your story.
Well, I think your life gives you lessons and things that can help other people. And again, like I said, I learned, because we got pushed off that cliff and we're $600,000 in debt, that having a big challenge or a big goal is actually kind of a tool that you can use.
Yeah.
And so I realized that after we had done that, Dianna, and many, many other times after doing that, where we actually picked a big goal now instead of having it land on us, that what happened is we were, it took courage, because it was something we didn't have the capabilities to do, right?
Yeah.
But after we got that capability and we got a new level of confidence and we became a new person, we landed in this place called complacency. And a lot of people stay in complacency for months or years. And what I say is complacency is actually you resting in the success that you've already had because you did set a big 10x goal before and accomplish it.
Right.
And because it does take courage, people don't want to do it all the time, right? I'd rather just stay in my real comfortable spot. But the truth is, the way our life gets big is to go back out and find that next big challenge. And so, my passion I've learned is to help people understand how to use this as a tool, not wait for life to give you a big challenge that you're forced, but understand we have the ability, and every time you're in that complacent spot, your success is really kind of telling you it's time for a new identity. And the way you get a new identity is set a bigger goal that changes the identity that you currently have. And so I just have realized looking back, and progress is only seen looking backwards, that I've done this before. Everybody on this call has done this before. The trick is now to use it as a tool to keep building a bigger and bigger life.
Well, you said two things there that really hit on me. Number one, clarity, because clarity brings energy. And the
Yeah.
other thing you talked about is the comfort zone. I call it the danger zone.
Yeah.
It
Right.
actually frightens me when I start becoming too comfortable. I know
Yes.
there's something wrong there that I
Yeah.
need to give myself a good kick in the butt, right? So talk to us a little bit about clarity and how much energy that can bring to you that you have found in your life.
Yeah. Well, I think, sometimes people wait for clarity to start, Diana, and I say clarity comes after action. So, set the big goal. Know that you're going to be, I always say excited and scared are beautiful combinations. Scared by itself's not good. Excited by itself gets you nowhere, right? But
Right.
if you put those two together, magic happens because our brains, which of all people, because you always study the brain, powerful it is to solve problems and to find answers. It's just the way God made us, right? So I think people sometimes wait for clarity, but clarity comes after you start taking action. So when you take action, only then will you start to get the credentials and the confidence and all the things you need. And most people want to wait. They want to wait, but a big goal will give you a pathway that now you're looking for to solve. But if you don't put those big goals there, you just keep making little goals, it's not stretching you, it's not growing you.
Right, and that comfort zone literally takes us backwards. I call it
Yeah,
a cage that we
yeah,
live in. We build a prison for ourselves, and we
yes,
don't even know we're in
yes,
prison, yet there we are, very comfortable, and I've never known you to be in your comfortable zone. I've
yeah,
always known you to keep pushing, to keep looking for what's next, and not just for yourself, for other people, which is what I really love. You brought up one thing, though, that I don't want our listeners to miss. It reminded me of that Chinese finger trap, that you put your fingers
yes,
in and you sit there and you pull and you pull and you pull. And you talked about surrendering to God. And when we push that in, it's like the surrender and our
mhm,
fingers come out and we're released and we have freedom. So,
mhm.
has there ever been a time? I know there's been a time in my life when I thought, oh, I was in control. Boy, I can do
Yeah,
this. What have you ever gone through that and then you realized, you know what? Just surrender it and
yeah.
it all works out.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's better when we understand we're actually in control of very little and to know the difference between what I should surrender. Actually, the sermon I just listened to today, I have a great pastor named Josh Howerton. I am in love with him.
Yeah.
I listen to Chris Hodges. I listen to our own pastor. And he said a message today. It was about anxiety, and it was understanding what things he showed a God bucket and an us bucket. And he said sometimes we're trying to put things in the God bucket that we actually should be doing, right? And I think that's a great
That's a
thing to
good
understand.
point.
What is something I should be moving my feet to move me out of this situation?
Mm,
What are the things I don't have any control of that I have to just give to God? Like we don't have control over the economy, we don't have control of what the government does, but we do have control of the next action we take to either get us to a bigger goal, to solve situation that we're in, and just understanding the difference between the two, I think is super important.
well, it reminds me of that story that you and I have both used in speeches about the guy that has a beautiful garden And the man comes by and he goes, "Wow, what a beautiful garden you have." And the guy says, "Thank you." And he says, "Oh, yeah, God has done good work." And the guy looked at him and he said, "Yeah, you should have seen it when God was doing it all by himself."
Yeah, yeah. So
You know,
true.
so I
So
think it's the two of us surrendering to him and then moving forward. And I can't wait to listen to that podcast. I was listening to Dallas Jenkins this morning, and he was talking about freedom. Of course, it's coming up on Good Friday and the beautiful time of Easter, where we should be shouting like we're in a stadium, right? We shout more about a touchdown sometimes than we do about the resurrection, for heaven's sakes. And you have a phrase, and I don't know exactly what it is. You're going to have to help me out with it. It's about freedom through passive income. And I know that you've built freedom in your business, in your life, yet people don't often understand. They misunderstand what freedom really brings to them. So
mhm.
explain to them what they can have when they have this passive income.
Yeah. Well, and I think I just got off a wealth building call, and one of the things I said to him is, how do we move our sense of urgency up about wealth building? And I told him why. Diana, when you and I first started in real estate, things changed very slowly. I mean, good Lord, we had the MLS book, which was as thick as I don't know what, forever. And then finally it got put on the computer.
Yeah.
But we're in a different place now. And anybody that ever asked me, would you do differently? I would say more of what we did and faster,
Yeah.
because things tend to change and we just think they never will. Like our cash flow changes. You and I told this on the wealth building call. I said, hey, I teach about graduallys and suddenlies and trying to be prepared for them. And you and I both had one
Yeah.
last year that we weren't expecting.
I had another one just this week.
Yeah, so to think that all things are going to stay the same, including your cash flow, is just not being responsible. So I was trying to get my group to move up in their sense of urgency, this wealth building thing, because we tend to think that I got plenty of time. And as fast as things are changing and moving now, Diana,
Yeah,
all bets are off. I mean, they're just
that's
off.
right.
And so what using the tool of, and I asked the group, I said, if we were 10 years from now, would your investments and your passive money sustain you if
Wow.
that's all you had? And if you can't say yes, get busy, because life is going to change. Cash flows change,
Yep.
circumstances change, health change, our family needing help changes. Those are the kind of things that we have to be prepared for. And I love what John Maxwell says, you cannot be outrageously generous if you're broke. And things will come up in your life that maybe a family member needs you to pay off their house and let
That's
them live
right.
a life estate. Maybe you've got a charity or a missions that you want to fund. It's all God's anyway, and He has certain things He wants you to use it for. But if you don't have it, you don't do it, right? And so I think if we could just get the sense of urgency that we don't know what is going to happen again. And I said to the group this morning, hey, I teach this and we weren't prepared. Now, here's the good news. Because of the things we had done over the last 30 years, it didn't wipe us out. It didn't kill us, but it sure set us back.
You know, it's interesting because you have all these plans, and I laughed. Somebody said you're back to work because they said it to somebody else, and the person shared it with me that, oh, I feel so bad. Diana's back to work because she must be destitute. I think she's broke. And I started laughing so hard because for you and I, having a net worth of X amount that most people would go, well, you're in the top 4%. What are you talking about? You're sitting, you feel like sometimes you're broke. We work because we love it, because we want to help people. So don't ever think because Linda's doing a class on 10Xing your business that she needs the money just because some was taken away from her. Believe me, she's well taken care of. And we do it because we love it. Yet people get stuck. You know,
Yeah,
I remember Shane calling me one day and saying, Mom, to keep Renee alive, I need a $35,000 cashier's check by
yeah,
tomorrow morning. And to be able to do that, that's what
yeah,
we want our listeners to hear. Not that I did it. Not that. That if somebody in your family called you and needed $35,000 cashier's check tomorrow, could you do it? And
yeah,
and if not, maybe you're stuck in a place. Linda, you and I have been stuck before where we owed money.
yeah.
What advice would you give to people about what they're capable of, becoming more, and how they can get unstuck? maybe starting with their thinking?
hmm Well, I think, the first thing I would always say is set a bigger goal than you're setting, because then your mind goes to work. I believe if you're on God's path, He's going to open up some doors and some opportunities, and probably in your sleep kind of give you some answers.
Yeah.
The reason I did the 10X challenge, Diana, is because I was in that book, 10X is easier than 2X. And you and I both, we take calls from people all day long.
Yep.
We'll be on an hour call with someone trying to help them. And at some point, you can't do that. You can't keep having 1 hour calls. You run out of hours, right? And do all the other things you need to do. But starting about November, I got flooded with people who would somehow find my number because they heard the story in the 10X easier and 2X. And Diana, I love it. I would get off that call and go, God, if I could just do this for the rest of my
That'd
life,
be fun.
it would be amazing. So I just saw confirmation all over the place to figure out how to do it one to many instead of one to one. And I happened to find a godly coach who I love. I love the way he teaches. He doesn't, you can never sell anybody on anything. You can help people to discover if it's right
That's
for
right.
them. That's his approach. Everybody else I would find as a coach, I'm like, that's not me. I'm not going to sell that way. If that's the way you got to sell, I'm not doing
Yeah.
it. And so I just answered God's call and said, okay, God, I have no idea how to do this, but I'm going to hire the right coach, and I'm going to write a big, big check, because people who pay attention. I'm going to write a big fat check. And
Yep.
sure enough, I wrote that big fat check, and I got busy and I watched every video he had. I jumped on every call he allowed me to be on. I did it all. And guess what? Within a few months, from November to, I think last March was our first launch.
Yep.
We do a challenge every month, but we launched our first challenge, and then we put our first group of people through the 10X accelerator right after that. But I knew nothing about it, Diana. I mean, I just made the commitment I was going to do it, found the right coach, wrote the big fat check, and then I got busy figuring it out.
Let's go through that, because a lot of people don't want to pay for a coach, right?
Yeah.
I can figure this out. Well, you didn't figure it out on your own before. Why in the world? I think what you're talking about, you talk about future identity, and you're making decisions from, most people make them from where they've been. You're making them for where you desire to go. So you hired a
Yes.
coach, you found
Yes.
the best. You didn't let your checkbook do your thinking for you.
Right.
So some coaches that we both had, they're expensive.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. People
Yeah.
act like $1,000 or $1,500 a month is a big deal.
Yeah.
No, those
Yeah.
people are a lot more than that.
And it may be to them, Diana,
Yeah.
but if you make the commitment that you're going to get the money's worth to pay that back, it's an investment. It's not a cost. But now here's the thing, if you're going to write the check and then do nothing with it, it's a cost. So I say don't do that. And I always say, look, I put enough stuff out in the world. You can listen to me for free. I'm totally happy if people do that. I really only want the true committed that the minute they write that check, they're like, oh gosh, I got to get my money's worth. And you and I both are such high responsible people. I was telling my group, I'm going to pull you across that finish line if I have to, because now I'm going to lay awake at night because you have written me a check. I'm going to lay awake at night and worry about your problems right along with mine, because I want to, not problems, but goals, because I want to help you solve them. Right.
Yeah.
And so the level of everybody's commitment goes up. Mine because they paid me, theirs because they paid me.
Well, and as a coach, for heaven's sakes, if the people you're coaching are not getting better, it's either them or you. Somebody has
Yes.
to look in the mirror and have a little bit of a come to Jesus talk,
Yes.
because if
Yes.
they're doing everything you're saying as a coach and they're not getting ahead, fire yourself as the coach and go find somebody that you can help. Or if the coach isn't helping you, then you have to have a talk with them. Yet the
Yeah.
one thing I know about you is you investigate who you're going to have as a coach. You don't just take anybody.
Yeah.
And you're always thinking about who can help me get ahead so I can help others. And I
Yeah.
want people to hear that. It doesn't stop with you. It's a ripple effect that keeps going. How important is that?
Well, I think it's the next level. Honestly, I think we are all wired this way, Diana. And I think until we find the ways to do that, we'll always kind of have a gap. In other words, I think the highest level of contentment I believe for all of us is that we have significance, and significance is us using our tools and our knowledge and our lessons and our gifts to help other people. And so when we do that, that is the highest accomplishment I think we can have. And I think each of us have it in us, but we got to get to that place. We got to work on becoming who we can become so that we can help those people. And the only way we're going to do that is keep growing and investing and learning, and then asking ourselves, why did I get that lesson? What lesson, how now me having that lesson, could I help other people who might get that lesson? And I think once we do that, I think we all have this kind of yearning. And I think at some point in your life, it's kind of like the pastor always says, okay, your booty's been sitting in the chair a long time now. Now it's time to do something with it, right? I think the same thing happens as we learn and grow. Okay, now it's time to reach your hand out and help other people with this. You can't just keep being the recipient of it.
Yeah, because those are just takers, and there are people that use people and love things, and they're love money and all different things, right? You love people. You're like me. We love people, and we use money for things. Now, let me ask you though. I'm listening to this podcast and I'm thinking, where do I start? So, Linda, I want to go back to the beginning again. You're $600,000 in debt. You started thinking differently. You found people, you found coaches, you took classes, you did whatever it took. I'm stuck. What are the steps that you would give me to first start out with?
Yeah, I would say the first step is to figure out what is the big goal that would make you so uncomfortable if you set it. And you kind of probably already know it, but you're not setting it. Maybe you're afraid of, what you don't know to accomplish it. Maybe you're afraid of failing. I always say people who are afraid of failure don't start. People who are afraid of failing, once they make the commitment, won't quit. Right. So I think you decide what is that goal, and then decide that you're really committed to it. And why are you committed to it? Why is it super important?
Yeah.
Because I think, Dianna, nowadays we can be so comfortable that it's easy to not stretch ourselves anymore, because life is comfortable. I mean, I spend most of my time going, how can I make my life easier and more comfortable? Okay, I can make sure my gym is within a certain distance. I can make sure my stretch lab is here. I mean, we just do that. And so I think to stretch ourselves means we have to be okay with uncomfortable. And most of us aren't okay with that. But I'm going to say you have to do that. And then if your goal is something you don't know how to accomplish, go find someone who's already done it. Either ask for their help, pay for their program, join their group, figure out how to get it around them so that you can learn what it is they did to accomplish what it is you need to accomplish. And I think we're humanly wired to want to help people. I always say back then, I could have swore Tony probably saw a sign on our forehead that said, these people are losers. They're $600,000.
I don't think so.
But the truth is, all I had to offer him at that time was to ask, how did you do that? And you know what? Now we've grown up. We've been partners. I always like to tease and say, now he might call us and ask us for our advice, right? But sometimes,
absolutely.
Sometimes there's a program there they have that you can join. There's a book that they wrote that you can read it. Figure out how to get near the people who've actually already done what because you got to find leverage in life. You need more money and more time. So what's the leverage to get you more money? What's the leverage to get you more time? It's finding the knowledge from other places and other people.
Well, and the other part that I do know about you, because I've experienced it with you, is become an avid learner. You remember it was New Year's Eve. Everybody was out partying, and we were out dancing and having a good time. We both looked at each other and said, "I'd rather be home watching TPN." That was the People's Network back then, and all they had was motivational speakers like Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all these great people. And we left the dance. It was 10 o'clock at night. We went home and we watched TPN till after midnight. Welcome to the new year, learning. And hey, it helped us.
Well, what's funny, Diane, is we actually left the nightclub that Jimmy owned to go home and sit on our booties and watch TV and watch people like Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and Nito Cobain. we were sick people.
Well, and they had that sign up. I'll never forget it. No.
Oh, yes. No twirling.
Yeah, and I went, "What in the world is twirling?" And he goes, "That's where you take the woman and you twirl her up over your head." And I said, "I'm gonna go watch TPN. I'm not doing that."
Yeah, then and the reason that sign was up because some fool thought he could lift a woman a little bit bigger than he was, and it didn't end well for either one of them.
Well, the other part is laughter is part of helping you feel free. That will help you get unstuck. Find a good friend like Linda and laugh a lot because it's so important. The other part is, Linda, with your goal setting and everything that you've done, I've got to ask you, when you think about becoming more, what does that mean to you about becoming more? And have you ever had to give up to go up?
Yeah, for sure. I think we always have to give up our old identity to get our new one. And, Gary told me years ago, I was really struggling, Diana, because a lot of times we either have naysayers
Yeah.
or noise. Naysayers is outside people who actually mean well, but they don't understand why we want to accomplish more or do whatever. So you get those. And a lot of times those people are people you really love and they're close to you and their family. And it bothers you that they don't understand why you're trying to accomplish more. And so I had that on one side. And then on the other side, one of my main roles is to recruit. And I was recruiting people who I saw so much more potential in, but they didn't
Yeah.
seem to want more for themselves. And so I was really frustrated. And, sometimes when something is so simple for you, you don't really understand why it's not simple for everyone. And so I reached out to Gary, who was coaching me at the time, and I said, I know there's an answer to this, but I can't see the forest for the trees. Can you help me? And he said the most beautiful thing to me, Diana, because I think the world has a tendency to make people who try to achieve more feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And he said, Linda, life is about becoming. And the way that you become is you get up every day, you go out into the world, and you see what else it is you can achieve.
There you go.
Sports teams don't win one Super Bowl and go back to the field house and do nothing. They go try to improve and get better. And that was so freeing for me, Diana, because I realized the person I've become from all this trying to achieve is more valuable than anything else I've gotten from it. But I'm a believer that if you bring value to the world, you won't be able to keep the money away, right? So
Yeah.
all I got to focus on is who has God put me here to become? And the only way I can become is I got to let go of who I was, go for something bigger so I can become someone different. And it's that becoming that is such value because, and I don't think any of us know what the limits are on who we can become. I don't want to get to the end and go, you know what? I think I could become, could have become more, right? But if you read Bonnie Ware's book, her number one regret of the dyings is not living a life true to themselves. And I think they just let other people decide what their day and their life looked like.
Well, I don't know about you. Many people go through people pleaser, being that part of their life, and they want to please others. And some people never let that go. And that was such great advice that Gary gave you. Because,
Mhm.
see, I believe that the story of the talents,
Yes.
it's not about money. Even though it is, I think it's a lot about the talent, the gift that God's given us. And so
Yes.
we've got to go out there every day and multiply that talent that he has put in us to help other people. And so I love that about becoming more and getting up every single day. And when people say to you, Linda, when is enough
Yeah.
enough?
Yeah.
What do you say back? I have my favorite answer. Do you have a
Yeah,
favorite?
I used to hate that question because what I would eventually realize is, again, it's never about the money because if you bring value to the world, the money shows up. It's what you do with that money, how you
Yes,
steward that money.
that's right.
And that's where I realize, and I say to them exactly what Gary just said to me, life is about becoming. And the only way we're going to become is when we go back out there and see what else it is we can achieve. Because
Yeah.
that's that's what makes us who we are, is the lessons we learn, the struggles we had, the successes we had, all the people we meet, the people we help, all those things is part of that becoming. And you can't do that if you're not out there constantly trying to see what else you can achieve.
Well, and give more to other people. I love the prayer of Jabez, where he
Yeah.
says, "Give me more so I can bless others." They
Yeah.
don't keep it for themselves. And John Maxwell the other day said he's meeting with a bunch of billionaires, and these
Oh,
people,
good
like
Lord.
one of them has like $50 billion or something, and he goes, "Good Lord, after a billion." do you really need more?
Yeah.
Going on. It so he's obviously wanting them to give some of that, and I understand because giving, I think, is a whole lot more fun than receiving, yet you gotta receive it to give it. So what final advice do you have for the people that have been with us on this Becoming More podcast today?
Well, I would just say the enemy of greatness is not failure, it's comfort. And to really ask yourself, am I in a comfortable spot? Am I complacent? And if I am, what if I turn that around and said, that's my clue that I'm needing a new identity? And the way to get that new identity is to set a bigger goal that feels impossible. And just be willing to try and see what you can accomplish when you set that goal so big that it takes you having to find different ways to get there, uh, learn things you don't know, find coaches and mentors you don't have, those kind of things, and just see what happens.
Well, and you've got the 10X Breakthrough Challenge coming up. When does that start?
We have the next one starting next week, actually Monday. It's 4 days. If you're in the VIP, it's 2 hours. If you're in the regular, it's just 1 hour of commitment a day. And then we do that once a month. So if they miss this one, the same link will get them there the next month. But we do
Well,
new challenges every month.
and this will air on Tuesday, so that one's already started. Could they join late,
Oh,
or do
sure.
you suggest
Yeah.
for the next time?
Yep, they could join. Everything's recorded,
Okay,
and
good.
so they would just have to go back and listen to Monday and, just jump in with us on Tuesday. Yep.
Well, here's what Linda and I just absolutely invite you to do. Let's learn from what we discussed today. As she said, set bigger goals and then create this extraordinary life that gives you extraordinary results, and then give back because you deserve a great life. You deserve a great business. And Linda's given you a roadmap today to follow. Follow it. Becoming More. If you want to subscribe, hit the button below. We'd love to have you as a subscription member on the Becoming More podcast each and every week, bringing you how other people have become more so you can follow in their footsteps. Thank you so much, Linda. So appreciate you.
Pleasure. Love you, Diana.
Love you. Bye bye.